Welcome back to my channel. I'm Tia. Today I want to share with you all of the books that I read during this past summer. These books include everything from my last wrap up, so from May 15th until September the 1st. So let's just jump into it. I don't really have these arranged in any particular order, so I'm going to just kind of grab them in the order that I have them stacked over here. A bunch of them are library books, so I don't have them to show you anymore. I'll have to just pop up a picture. But anyway, I've been reading this year the Hidden Legacy series by Alona Andrews with my friend Amy over at Zoe Beck, and I will leave her channel linked down below if you would like to go and check her out. But essentially, the Hidden Legacy series is a 6-book series. So far, I'm not sure if they're planning on putting more in there or not. The most recent one, the 6th one, just came out in August, so I haven't heard any news on what's going to happen after that. But anyway, it is made up of 2 separate trilogies that obviously connect, and I think you should read them both and in order, obviously. But the first trilogy follows one sister, and then the second trilogy follows the next oldest sister. So yeah, in May we read White Hot, and in June we read Wildfire. So this is the second and the third book in the series, which completes the first trilogy, which follows the oldest sister in this family, whose name is Nevada Baylor. In this world, it takes place in an alternate Houston, and in this world, basically back in the 1800s, some people found a serum that basically gives you magical powers, and because people back then took the serum, it sort of made magical families come about, and it was passed down through genetics. And so now in the present day, you have like really powerful magical families, and then like the leaders of those families would be called primes. Those are like the highest magic users. And then there are other magic users whose magic is less, and right now I'm blanking on what their names are, but anyway, there's different levels, and there's a whole bunch of politics that goes on in here, because as you can guess, those families who have all the power, they want to keep it. And anyway, and this family that we're following, they are basically like detectives, and they solve different crimes and stuff. At the beginning, they are solving very low level crimes, and as you can guess, the first book they get involved in a pretty high level crime, and things just continue on from there. And in, like I said, the first trilogy, so Nevada is basically like a human lie detector. She can tell when someone's telling the truth or not, and that's a very useful skill. She has other magical abilities that go along with that. Hers is basically, I don't know what the word is for it right now, but like mental magic. She uses her mind for stuff. Anyway, yeah, so these two follow her and her story arc. She does have a love interest in this trilogy. His name is Connor. He has a different kind of magic, and he's very, very powerful. There's a lot of tension between them. He's definitely an alpha male, but she is also very alpha as well, I would say. She's definitely not a pushover, and he is definitely a sucker for her. Yeah, so their relationship is really a good one, and I enjoyed this first trilogy. I really like Nevada. Some of the things that I really love about the series is the family dynamic. So she does live with her 2 sisters, her 2 cousins that are boys, her mom and her grandmother, and they just work really well together. They have a lot of banter and funny jokes together, and it's just a lot of fun. I really, really loved their family. Okay, and then the second trilogy we started in July, right? We read 3.5, which is called Diamond Fire. So this is a novella, and I read this on my Kindle, and this kind of connects the 2 trilogies. You sort of not say goodbye to Nevada, but you sort of like, I don't know, they sort of like pass the torch over to the next sister in line, whose name is Catalina. And so we sort of get introduced to her more in this one. Like, she's obviously in the other trilogy, we do see her, but we don't see her near as much as this one, where she takes center stage of the book and we find out a lot more about her. And her magic is sort of mysterious up until this point. So I almost don't know if I even want to tell you what she is, but yeah, it's very interesting when you get to find out what everyone else in the family gets to do. So then we read the 4th book in the series, which is Sapphire Flames, and then Emerald Blaze in August. No, in July? In August. In September, we're going to read Ruby Fever, which is the last one that's out. So yeah, Catalina, I really like her character as well. The same thing with the family dynamics, it still exists in here. Nevada is in these books as well, but not as much. And she does have a love interest. His name is Alessandro, and I don't want to tell you what his magic is, but he's very powerful, and he is very like mysterious and beautiful and kind of dark and brooding, but also witty. And yeah, I really like him. He is an alpha male as well, but not as much as Connor is in the first trilogy. But the only thing about these is I feel like their romance was, for me, a little bit insta-lovey. Yeah, I don't know. But I really enjoyed these. I'm looking forward to the conclusion. And I think overall that this series is a 4-star series for sure. So then maybe I'll tell you about the rereads that I did this summer. I reread The Hunger Games and Catching Fire, and I'm planning to read Mockingjay in September, and hopefully the, what is it called? The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes soon as well. I've read the first 3 books, but I haven't read that prequel book yet. I kept planning to reread these and then read the prequel, and so I'm finally doing that, but I'm sure you already know what these are about. I'm really enjoying my reread of the series, and I'm looking forward to finally reading the prequel book as well, although I haven't heard very good things about those. So anyway, there are those. Reread a Sweet Valley Twins book. I have several of these that I've been rereading and then passing on to my kids. This is Choosing Sides. This one is about cheerleader tryouts, and Jessica is up to her normal hijinks along with a unicorn club. They are trying to basically dictate who gets into the cheering squad. Yeah. I'm not really sure why I decided to reread these. I think I forgot how annoyed I always was with Jessica and Lila and the other unicorns. They just drive me batty. I mean, these books hold a lot of nostalgia for me, but I just get so annoyed with them. And then like Elizabeth just basically lets Jessica and her friends walk all over her. It's annoying, but yeah, I do like Elizabeth's friend in here, Amy, and there was a guy in here too who they were kind of bullying, and now I can't remember his name, but yeah. Anyway, I have like 12 of these, so I am planning on rereading through 12. I don't know how long it'll take me, and I doubt I'll go past 12. I finally read The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. I feel like this has been pretty popular on BookTube for a couple of years, and my sister has read it. My mom might have read it as well, and so yeah, I definitely have been wanting to read this, and so I finally did. And I'm sure you already know what this is about. I feel like everyone has read this one. It takes place during the war. It's about this little girl who lives in London, and all of the kids are being evacuated from the city into the village. Her name is Ada, and she is 10 years old, I think. And she's never left her apartment before. Her mother is too embarrassed by her disability. She has a clubfoot, and her mother's never gotten care for her or anything, and never helped her at all. And so Ada has never learned to walk or do anything, basically. Like, she has never left the apartment, and so she decides to basically train herself how to walk, teach herself. And it's all about her and her little brother and how they they evacuate the city and go live in a village with this woman who ends up taking them in, and the relationship that they build with her and the relationship that they build with each other. It was a very emotional book. I really enjoyed the story. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me. I feel like sometimes books that are very, very popular, I end up thinking that they're going to be amazing and have like super high expectations for them. So they rarely live up to those expectations. So this was close to a 5-star read, but just not quite. I do have the sequel, so I think I will probably read it. Maybe. I don't know if this needed a sequel or not. I don't know. Have you read the sequel? Is it worth reading? Let me know. And then I also read Until Tomorrow, Mr. Marsworth by Sheila O'Connor. So this one takes place in the summer of 1968 during the Vietnam War, and this one is about a little girl who has a paper route, and one of the men on her paper route she never sees. He basically is like a recluse. He never comes out. So she ends up writing letters to him back and forth, and they end up discussing lots of things like her family and the war, and it's a very heartfelt book as well. You really fall in love with the little girl in this story. Much like the other one though, I can't remember if I gave this one 5 stars or not. I feel like I enjoyed this one maybe a little bit more than the other one, but maybe not quite 5 stars. But I really enjoyed the Vietnam War aspect of this one. I think because that is a war that is not written about in fiction as much as World War I and World War II, or else maybe I'm just not seeing the books that are written about Vietnam. I feel like I've only read 2 or 3 that were written about Vietnam. So yeah, this one definitely piqued my interest more, probably because of the subject matter. In May, our book club pick was The Flat Chair by Beth O'Leary. So we have already done a live show on this one, and you can find it on my channel if you're interested in listening to that discussion that we did on this book. So this is a contemporary romance, and it is following these 2 people who live in London. The woman has just broken up with her boyfriend, who is kind of very crummy. Like, he is terrible, and so she's looking for a place to live, and she runs across the ad for this apartment that this guy is trying to lease. He works nights, and he is looking for someone to basically live in his apartment while he's at work. So she will be living there, like sleeping there at night, and he works at night, and so then she works during the day, so they'll never see each other basically, and they end up leaving notes for each other to communicate, little post-it notes everywhere. And so it's a lot of writing back and forth as well. So that was very interesting, and you get to learn about them through those notes. I don't know, I really loved both of these characters. The girl was really quirky and fun. I've heard people say that they don't think that she's realistic, but I definitely have met people before who are like that. Yeah, and the guy is the complete opposite. He's very quiet, but he just has a soft spot for her, and I just really enjoyed their relationship. It was a lot of fun. I kind of want to already reread this book. I can't remember if I gave this 4 or 5 stars, but I was actually very surprised by how much my husband enjoyed this one, so that was a lot of fun as well. I also read Love List and Fancy Ships by Sarah Grunder Ruiz. This is one that I buddy read with my friend Trish, and this is also a contemporary romance. We had a lot of fun reading this. At least I did. I think she did too. I think I might have enjoyed the book more than her, but we both really enjoyed it. I think we both gave it 4 stars, but I can't remember exactly. I know I did, but I can't remember exactly what she gave the book. But anyway, yeah, so this is following a girl whose name is Jo Walker. She is a yacht stewardess, and she is about to turn 30, and she made a bucket list the year before, I think, of 30 things that she wanted to do before she turned 30, and now it is almost her birthday and she has not completed that list, so she is trying to hurry up and get that done before she turns 30. She has been dealing with a lot of stuff in her life recently, and you get to learn all of that, so I don't want to spoil that for you, but part of this involves her family, like her nieces show up unexpectedly. She wasn't expecting them, and they help her out with her list as well. And there's also a man who shows up in her life, a single dad, and you could just get to read about their relationship and her relationship with her nieces. Yeah, I just always love books that have like family dynamics, however that may be, if it's sisters or, you know, aunts and nieces, or like whole families, you know, mom, dad, grandmother, whatever. It's just a lot of fun. I really like to see those connections. And I really, really enjoyed the guy in here. He was just a sweetheart. I enjoyed watching their relationship develop. I loved her job. I loved the whole yacht stewardess thing. That was just a lot of fun. And I would like to read more books like that. I've discovered I don't really like boat journeys, but I enjoyed hearing about like the ritzy customers or clients that they take on their yachts. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So if you have other books like that, definitely recommend them to me. I feel like that's kind of a thing in some of Aline Hildebrand's books as well. But anyway, I digress. So yes, I recommend this book if it sounds interesting to you at all. It was like a warm, cozy romance. It wasn't too angsty. There was a lot of emotional stuff, so it wasn't completely all fluff. So definitely go in expecting that. So you won't be surprised that there is some emotional stuff as well. And yeah, this one has a sequel that just came out in July or August. I can't remember exactly, but it was this summer, and I definitely need to get to it soon. It's following her friend who works with her on the yacht. So definitely recommend this one. We will go ahead and throw in these two manga that I read, because this is the last of the physical books that I own, and then everything else was from the library. So this summer I finished up a manga series that I had been reading, and that is Night of the Ice. So I read volume 10 and volume 11 in order to go ahead and complete this series. I'm so glad to follow this one all the way to completion. It's just an adorable, adorable series. I guess it's like a mixture of sport manga mixed with slice of life, mixed with romance. So it's following this guy named Kokoro, who is an ice skater, and his friend Cheetos. She is his friend since they were little, and they both really enjoyed this magical girl anime. Oh, I just dropped that. When they were growing up, and they run into each other again when they're adults, and he is, you know, kind of a famous ice skater in Japan, and he wants her to do this little magical charm that they used to do on the show that they watched together, for him to give him good luck when he is about to go into a skating competition. And he kind of becomes superstitious about it, and then wants her to be around for every competition after that. And that's sort of just how they reconnect at the very beginning of the series. So it follows them all the way from, I can't remember what the very first competition was at the beginning, but all the way to the Olympics. So you get several different competitions, and like national championships, regional championships. I don't remember what all the championships were, but there were several, and you get to meet lots of other ice skaters and his staff, and she has a friend that you meet, and some people that she works with, and they're just super duper sweet. Their relationship is absolutely adorable. I have such a soft spot for them. I really, really like them. I really enjoyed the ice skating aspect as well. Some of the books towards the end, not the last one, but like maybe 9 and 10, slowed down a little bit and became slightly repetitive. I kind of feel bad for saying that, because I do love this series, and I think overall it is a 4-star series. But yeah, if you are someone who follows me who is not looking for risque content, I would say that their relationship is not is not, what's the right word? They don't have a sexual relationship, but there are some other characters in here who definitely talk about adult topics sometimes. That's a good way to put it. It doesn't happen often or in every volume, but it is there, so just be forewarned. There you go. Oh, wait. So there's one other book that me and my husband read for a book club in June, and that was The Island by Adrienne McKenty. I have passed this book on to my sister, so I don't have it anymore. But here's what it looks like. This was a thriller that takes place in Australia. It's following this family who is there for the husband's work, and he has brought along his new wife and his 2 kids, and the 2 kids are kind of getting bored and wanting him to take them to do stuff during the day. They essentially convince him to like drive around and go look for koalas. I don't know, is that what you do in Australia? You just drive down the road and hope you see koalas? It seems like if you really wanted to see them, you would go to like the zoo or the wildlife center or something. But maybe you do just drive down the road and see them. I don't know. Anyway, so they end up running into these people who tell them that they have a boat and they can take them across to this island where they live, and that they can see a whole bunch of koalas over there if they'll just pay them, you know, all this. I feel like it was like $400, but I don't remember exactly the amount anymore. So they agree to that. They go to this island where this just one big family, almost like a commune kind of, live together and away from civilization basically. And as you can imagine, a whole bunch of stuff goes down over there because it was just like one bad decision after the other, starting with, why yes, I will go with you random person on this boat to this unknown island to go look at koalas. Sure. Anyway, the book was interesting. I really enjoyed the Australian setting, but none of these characters were like characters that I enjoyed. Especially the guy. The kids are okay, I guess, but yeah, it was obviously really unbelievable, which most thrillers are, and it was totally based around, you know, one bad decision after the other. So I mean, I guess thrillers, you're supposed to suspend your disbelief and believe that there's people out there who would constantly make these terrible decisions. But anyway, it was interesting. I enjoyed my time reading it. It was definitely a page turner, but I don't know if I would ever reread it. I don't know. I'm not sure if I would read another book by this author or not either. Maybe. Maybe. Anyway, I think I gave this 3.5 stars. Now I'm going to move on to the library books that I read this summer. So let's see. The first one that I read, I'm looking down at my list down here, is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. So this is a new release for this year, and I'm not sure what month it came out in, but I've been wanting to read it ever since I first heard about it because it is pitched as The Shining in space. Is that what it was? No, Titanic, like a horror Titanic, or Titanic with ghosts in space, something like that. So it's about this really fancy spaceship that's going to take all of these really high-end clientele up for a really long space ride, and while they're in space, something goes wrong and the thing just like disappears and no one knows what happens to the ship. But in present day, we're following this salvage crew who has basically stumbled upon this huge ship up in space, and they are trying to figure out, like, should they go on the ship and find out what happened? Should they, basically what should they do? And how are they going to prove that they actually found the ship that everyone was looking for all those years ago? Anyway, so like I said, it's pitched as like Titanic with ghosts in space, and it was freaky at points. There was definitely like an atmosphere built there. But I felt a little bit disappointed by this book because I felt like it got kind of repetitive, and some of the stuff just, I don't know, it just wasn't scary really to me. I don't know how to explain my disappointment. I gave this 3 stars. In a nutshell, I thought that this book was repetitive and slow and not scary. Like, I felt like the first part really held promise, and I was sort of turning the pages fast, wanting to know what was going to happen. But then I felt like it took a turn that I didn't like about halfway, 65% in. And I guess I can't tell you what it is, but I just didn't like the direction that the book took. It didn't, I can't tell you without ruining everything. So I guess I'll just have to leave it at that. Like, I want to explain more, but I shouldn't because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, this book was a bit of a disappointment. Great premise, but I don't think it was executed that well. And then I read Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel in July. And this one I really did enjoy. I think I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoy Emily St. John Mandel's writing. This is the second book that I've read by her, but I want to read all of her backlists. I think that this book was really well written and very thought-provoking. Now, this one is about the space-time continuum, I guess you would call it. And that is something that I always enjoy reading about or watching movies that have that theme running throughout it. So that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed this book so much. But you follow multiple different timelines in this book. One that's pretty far in the past. I think it was the late 1800s or early 1900s. I could be wrong though. And then like the 1990s, then 2000 and I don't remember, but and then maybe like 2300. I can't remember the exact years, but you get what I'm saying, like several different timelines. And the one that's the most in the future, you know, there's space travel, there's people living on the moon, there's all these different things that you would expect about a year that far in the future. And you get to see these different timelines and how they connect or work with each other, I guess you could say. I don't want to say more than that because I have seen other people say a lot that I personally feel spoils the book. I think that this book could be spoiled very easily. So it's best just to go in knowing a very small amount. So just know that it deals with time, the time-space continuum, and that there's multiple different timelines, and that Emily St. John Mandel is a really good writer. I could definitely see myself rereading this one in the future. Then I also read Fable by Adrienne Young. This one is a young adult fantasy. I'm not really sure if I should call this fantasy or not. I struggle with books that are not really historical, but not really fantasy. It feels like a ye old pirate book, but there's no like magical elements or anything out of the ordinary. Oh yeah, there is a little magical element, isn't there? I guess. So this girl can basically hear or feel metal or gemstones. So I guess that is a magical ability. They don't really explain how she can do it. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it's very ye old piratey. That's how I would explain it. And it's about this girl whose dad has like abandoned her in the city, and she has spent all of her time trying to gather up metal and sell things and barter with people to work for passage back to where her dad lives, so that she thinks be reunited with him and work for him on his boat crew. And it's about her journey on this ship to go and find her dad and everything that goes along with it. So she ends up meeting this crew and becoming basically like friends with them, part of their crew or whatever. And that part is interesting, meeting the other crew and her relationships that she develops with the other crewmates. But overall, I felt like this book was super slow, like super duper slow. Yeah, I don't plan on continuing this one. although I felt like the ending, you know, made me want to. It's like books always do that to me. Like the whole way through, I'm feeling, oh, this is kind of slow. I doubt I want to read more. And then the ending will end on sort of like a cliffhanger and make me want to know what's going to happen. But since I got this from the library, I doubt I will continue on. Anyway, it was just like a 3-star. Okay, so then I read Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi, and I would call this a new adult contemporary book, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe just a contemporary, but it's following, the main characters are college age. So the girl is a freshman and the guy is like 2 or 3 years older. And it's just, I don't even know really how to explain this book, but it's about this girl going off to college for the first time, and her complicated relationship with her mother, meeting a roommate, you know, that she didn't know before, and trying to, you know, get on in her classes and to get along with her roommate. And she meets her roommate's friend, who is the main guy in the book, who works at a coffee shop, and her developing relationship with him. I feel like this book is pitched as like having a lot of text back and forth, but just beware that the text part that I feel like is really hyped up on this doesn't happen until probably like a third of the way into the book. But it is really cute when it does. I really enjoyed their banter back and forth. They just really seem to get each other, and yeah, their relationship was adorable. But I will tell you that there were times when I was slightly annoyed. Like I thought, oh, they're a little pretentious, and do people really speak this way? But just because I personally don't know anyone who talks that way doesn't mean that there aren't college age kids out there who do speak that way. And by the end, I was in love with them, and I thought, man, I want to be like that. Maybe I'll start speaking pretentiously like this. Not really. But anyway, yeah, I fell in love with them. I thought they were super cute. I would definitely read more by this author. And if you have read Mary H.K. Choi, let me know what other books by her you would recommend. Then I read Unsub by Meg Garner. This one is a mystery thriller, and it is about a serial killer cold case that has never been solved. So basically, you're following this detective when a murder happens, and they think that it is a cold case reopening. Does that make sense? I don't know how to explain this. So basically, there was a serial killer in the past, and then he disappeared for a while, and now they think he's back. So this detective who is going to investigate it, her dad was in charge of the investigation 20 years before, when the killer was first on the loose. And now they think he's back, and she is having to take over the case. And it's just about that. I feel like the premise is really interesting, potentially triggering, honestly, because it is pretty gruesome at parts. But for this premise, I would expect it to be more engrossing and more thrilling. And it just got really slow and repetitive. I think that's my issue with a lot of books. Like, I feel like authors tell me the same information multiple times. It's like they underestimate my ability to remember things, or readers' ability to remember things. But if I'm sitting down to read a book over a few days, you don't need to tell me the same thing over and over and over. Anyway, it just bugs me. And this is another one that's part of a series, and the whole way through I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to read the rest of this, because really, what could possibly be in the second book? But then at the end, they throw something at you, and you're like, oh, well, do I need to read the second book? I don't know. Probably not, because I have enough other series going on. But you let me know if you read the second book and what you thought. Okay, then I read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This one is a YA fantasy. I would definitely say that this one has fantasy elements for sure. There was no question that this one was a fantasy. I really enjoyed this one. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this. I felt like Stephanie Garber's writing was very on par with like Marissa Meyer. That's who I would compare it to. Very whimsical and fairy tale-esque. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Now, the storyline wasn't perfect, but because I enjoyed the writing and the characters so much, I really had a good time with this one. And I definitely do want to read the second one in this duology, which I think comes out in either in August or September. So this one's basically about this girl who's in love with a boy who has basically forsaken her and decided to marry her stepsister. So she goes to this fate. So this world has like different fates who are over different things, and prays or makes a bargain with this fate that she doesn't want them to get married. And whenever you make a bargain with a fate, like, you might get what you want, but it's always going to come at some weird cost that you wouldn't have expected. And so that's of course what happens here. And you follow along with all of the consequences that come along with that bargain that she made. And it's just fun. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just fun. It's not like anything groundbreaking, but I really enjoyed it. Okay, then the last book that I read this summer, and the last book that I read from the library, is Hide by Kirsten White. This is one that I had been interested in since I very first heard about it. Who knows? I feel like this has been hyped up on BookTube. Like, when it came out, everyone was hauling this, everyone was getting an arc of this, and I really wanted to read it. I got denied on NetGalley for it. So I finally got it from the library. The premise of this is like a thriller that's set in an amusement park. You know, these people are all coming together to play like this really big game of hide and seek, and they're going to win, it's like $50,000 or $500. I can't remember. I think it's $50,000 prize money. You know, the last one who's not found or whatever. And so I was like, wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. This cover was cool. I don't know why, because, you know, it's not zombies, but I was totally getting Zombieland vibe, because part of that takes place in an amusement park. Not like there was going to be zombies in this, but I'm all about things that are set in an amusement park. So yeah, I was disappointed in this book, which is not surprising because it has really low ratings on Goodreads. But I felt like this book was really trying hard to make a statement about something, and I don't think it completely got there all the way. Parts of this were interesting, but what ultimately, I don't know, I feel like I was expecting one thing to happen at the amusement park during the game, and that is not what was happening there. And I was kind of like icked out hardcore by what was actually happening there. It was like very disturbing to me. I wasn't like scared, but I just felt grossed out and disturbed, I guess. And so I didn't enjoy that aspect of it. Yeah, and I don't really think the writing was that great. It was very nebulous, if that makes any sense at all. I don't like the point of view that it was written from, and I don't know, I just don't think that this accomplished what it set out to do, and it just wasn't that good. Thankfully, it was under 250 pages. That's the best thing I can say about it. I gave it 2 stars. That might be a bit harsh, but that's just my feelings. That's how I feel about it. This is definitely the worst book that I read this summer, was Hide. I don't recommend it. Anyway, that stinks to end on a bad note, but I'm hoping to read only good books in September and to hopefully bring wrap-ups more often, like once a month or twice a month, so that I don't have to do 20 something in one and make a super long video and probably bore you to death. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought about them. Do you disagree or agree with me? Let's have a chat about it down in the comments. I will be back soon with another video. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you then. Bye.